This is a 1927 AJS, bought as a complete basket case 15 or 20 years ago. Seems a long while now, but then you just have to look at the kind of machinery I have, and it's only me that does it. So that's 15 or 20 years ago. I'm gradually getting it up together now for Gary to take back to America. It's a 350 overhead valve, and it's called a Big Port. This is called a Big Port, and why it's called a Big Port is because the exhaust pipe is 1 inch and 7/8 diameter. Having said that, there we are. Just a minute. It really is a Big Port. There's the size of the exhaust pipe. 1.5 inch diameter on this model. Some of them are 1 inch and 7/8, and the biggest go out to nearly to 2 inches. And they were not by the makers. The general public call them Big Ports, but the maker always put them as overhead valve so and so, so and so, so and so. But when the people see them today, they call them Big Ports because they are Big Ports. Having said that, they didn't use the Big Port name to 1931. Anything made before 31 was not called a Big Port. It was just called model something, the overhead valve model. So as you can see, gradually I'm getting it back up together. This has got wired edge tyres as against beaded edge. Wired edge tyres are obviously a lot safer. You can use them at a lower pressure. 24 in the front, 26 at the back, or 22 in the front, 26 at the back. Let's start at the front of the bike and gradually work through. 6-inch brake, operated by the right hand lever. Always the right hand lever on a handlebar operates the front brake. So internal expanding, 6-inch brake, girder forks on this bike as they would be right up to it, well into the 30s, not telescopic forks didn't come into 39 on AJSs, so girder forks were right up to the late 30s. So it's girder forks. When the forks are working, these springs are the return springs. The forks go forward, the return springs pushes them back up. Well, something has to push them back up, because if they go down, they got to come back up. That's what these springs do. Okay, so we have the springs there. Lightweight mud guards. These are not touring mud guards. These are lightweight mud guards for the overhead valve bike, because it's a bike that to keep the weight down. And not only that, the bike, this particular bike, is quite a quick bike. Lightweight mud guard. Once again, we have the magneto out the front where it catches all the mud, especially with a narrow section mud guard. But on the front is a small hole, and we have a complete bracket that goes over the top. Now, as against a Triumph motorcycle, they didn't have that shield. AJS has always had that shield, so it went right over the top of the magneto to the full width of the magneto, so as it didn't pick up all the mud and the rubbish off the road. And especially with these narrow mud guards, because they didn't keep no rubbish in anyhow. Engine, the top of the engine's away, being reconditioned. We've had a rebore here, brand new piston, rebore engine, done by Mr. Peterson, who comes from Birmingham, and Ray Carter overhauled the magneto, well-known magneto repairer. So this is basically a brand new top end to the engine. Hope there ain't no trouble there in later times. We then move on to the clutch, the brake pedal. There's the brake pedal. Here's the clutch. There's shock absorbers on the engine. There's a shock absorber which slips, by the way, if the engine's pulling too hard, and this isn't tightened up, it'll slip, so it smooths out the transmission. Same with the clutch. That's a gearbox shock absorber. And between them, they make the transmission quite smooth. There should be here a full-length chain guard over the top of the chain run, but nothing underneath. So and this, by the way, is a brake pedal. You can see that, look, there we are, brake pedal. Once again, wired edge rim, 26-inch by 3-inch tyre at the back. And here, if we look up from the wheel itself, is our toolboxes. On AJSs we have two, one either side, toolboxes, just to carry the minimum amount of spares, spare plug, plug spanner, pair of pliers, odd tyre lever, what have you. Both of them's been refurbished by Mr. Sadler from Blagdon in Somerset. His speciality is doing leather work. He's done the toolbox leather in exactly the same colour as he's done the saddle leather. Now that's a real plus. It's also, on this one, we haven't got brooks on the back, but normally there's brooks on the back. So we've got the toolboxes done in the same leather as the saddle leather. If we quietly move on now from the saddle, we're back to the petrol tank, 1.5 to 1.75 gallons. That's the aperture for the petrol, and then this is the aperture for the oil, and we have an oil pump here. Now this bike will eventually have a Pilgrim pump on, and that will be on the timing side over this side, and it'll be one drip every second or every 5 seconds depending on what you want. This is a very good auxiliary pump, and you give it one squirt every 5 to 7 miles if you're going quick. We're back to the petrol tank again, and this time showing you the hand change. It's 3 speeds, pull up for 1, push down for 2, and right through to number 3. Obviously you had to have a clutch to do that, and you can see that the gear change mechanism goes down to on the outside of the clutch, and when it's finally put up together you'll see a wire coming down here so as the clutch operates. You have to remember this bike is nowhere near finished yet. It's got quite a bit of work to be done on. Here you see the beginning of putting the steering damper on. The rest I'll show you there. That fits on there and that fits up there. So there's the steering damper, okay? That's got to yet be fitted. Right, now if we look at the remainder. Original horn, just a new rubber. Levers yet to go on, but taking their place. Right hand lever, mine is for the front brake. There's the clutch lever. There would be the lever for the exhaust lifter, but that's all yet to be done. Now let's move on to the lighting. This lighting system, the system itself isn't unique to AJS's, but this nice way of holding up the headlight through these holes. Quite often when I go around shows, I see these holes being used as cable runs. Then put the clutch cable down through there, and then put the front brake cable down through there. Really, these holes are for this very sturdy bracket that holds the headlight up. And being as the headlight is on a radius, all you have to do is slacken it off, and you can move the headlight round that way, up and down. You have great difficulty on the other system of doing that. So all you've got to do is slacken off that nut, and you can move it to suit. Other than that, I can't tell you a lot about this bike. Bought 15-20 years ago. We're hoping to get the original number back on it, and gradually we should have it finished for September, I hope.